I have never done any film photography, but I've always loved the film look. So when the folks at Dehancer reached out to me to do a review of Dehancer as a Lightroom plugin, I was intrigued. I tested it out with various photos that were shot in a number of different scenarios, and I was surprised at what I found. So let's jump right in and see how Dehancer can enhance mine and your images. Let's get into it. Just a quick one. Unfortunately, I've got COVID, so if my vocals don't sound as nice as usual, I am sorry. Now, I never like following instructions, but Dehancer recommends that you make some minor edits so you can get the best out of the film emulation software. And I want to show you how you can use this software to benefit your photography. There's only a few little minor adjustments to make, so let's quickly do this. So we start in preferences and we make sure that the color space is in sRGB and the bit depth is 16-bit. So the settings are Profile Adobe Standard, -1 exposure, -40 contrast, blacks +60, keep the tone curve linear, sharpening is 0, and lastly noise reduction is also left at 0. I've had to do a minor adjustment of the exposure as this is a night photo and the exposure just wouldn't work at -1. So this is the Dehancer UI. Over here are the film profiles. As you can see, there are many, and the good news is they regularly update them with new ones. Next to this are the presets, which we'll have a look at later. And Dehancer gives you the option of creating a new preset with the current settings that you've worked with. You can also import your own presets and export them and delete them. With this button you can hide the window, and here are the settings where you can update the film profiles when new ones come out, and also select your processing GPU. This is particularly good if you have multiple GPUs to choose from, like on a PC. Press this button to restore last used settings, reset all settings to the defaults, undo last edit and redo last edit. The keyboard shortcuts are Z and Shift Z. This button reveals your histogram, and this button zooms in. Here's your preview after you've created some edits. And over here, this is where the magic happens. This is where you're gonna edit your photos with all of those great effects, the halation, the bloom, giving you that awesome kind of filmic vibe. This push-pull slider is kind of like a dimmer for your images. When using it with negative film, it tweaks the color contrast, giving your photo a completely different vibe. With a positive film profile, you can slide it one way and your photo gets darker, with deeper shadows and a moodier feel. Slide it the other way and it brightens up, lifting the shadows and changing the colors slightly. It's basically Dehancer's way of implementing film exposure. Right, let's get cracking. I've done some research and I've read that the CineStill 800T is good for night photography. So let's use that film profile and let's give that push-pull slider a push. I'm not going to go over every single slider, otherwise we would be here all day, but I am going to go over the ones that are meaningful to this image as well as the features. Right, in the manual, they tell you to use this expand tool first to adjust the blacks and whites in your image. This tool lets you set the black point and white point of the image, giving you control over the depth of the shadows and the brightness of the highlights. So let's just reduce the contrast a little. The manual also says to use the vignette at the beginning rather than at the end, which is unique. So let's add a little bit of glow around the edges using the vignette sliders. Nice. Right, This source correction feature lets you adjust any exposure or temperature issues that you had when you shot the photo. This photo is looking a little yellow to me, so let's use this tool to fix that. That is better. The Film Developer tool lets you tweak the contrast and colour separation in your image. So if your photo looks a bit flat and the colours don't pop enough, this tool helps you adjust that. There's not much I need to do with this tool, but I'm going to use it to minutely tweak the contrast down. That colour separation slider lets you turn down only the most intense colours in your photo, so I'm also going to use it to tweak down the colour intensity of those lights. The film compression tool is like a cool trick for handling bright spots in your images. It's a great way of pushing the highlights into the midtones, especially using this tonal range slider. Look how this slider has softened the glow on the wall from that lamp. Let's also just cool down the tone of those lights with the color density slider. This is one of my favourite features. You can change the print profile, which all do a great job of emulating classic printing papers. You can also use it to alter the exposure. Instead of boosting all the colours in your photo the same way, the colour density slider works solely for the colours that matter most in your image. I absolutely love the colour head tool here. I'm using it to adjust the colour pairs yellow, blue and magenta green. Brilliantly, I can also use it to push tones separately into the shadows, midtones. It really is awesome. This feature is so colour creative. Look how I've shifted the tones to create a certain vibe. This film grain tool is fantastic. It's not just a grain overlay, it actually changes the texture of your photo. We're just going to use it subtly though. You can use the resolution slider to make the photo sharper or softer, and you can actually push film grain into the shadows, midtones and highlights separately if you want. This halation tool and the bloom tool are the most creative tools in my opinion. I'm going to use the halation to add soft glows around all of the visible lights in this image. The diffusion and the amplification sliders are where we can boost this effect. You can dial it in as much as you want or as little as you want. Look, it's already created a beautiful haze around those lights. You can use this bloom tool to create a dreamy soft glow that spills out of those light sources. Once again, you've got full control of the effect with the diffusion, amplification and impact sliders. Notice how that bloom has created a haze around those lights. This image is done. I think that looks suitably atmospheric. Let me know in the comments what you think. I shot this photo on a lightless grey day in St Ives in Cornwall. I was thinking that this photo didn't have anything going for it because there was no light, even though there's quite a bit of humour going on with that dog on his hind legs and that man's expression at this kiosk. So let's see if we can get something out of this. Let's go for a different profile this time, the OWRO Chrome UT21 Daylight profile. Right, let's whiz through the basic exposure corrections. The impact slider in the film compression tool adjusts just how much the highlights can be toned down in your image. The higher you push the impact value, the more those highlights will be blended into the midtones. That's already dropped the highlights. Now let's change the film profile in the print settings and see if we can give this photo some life. Let's go for the Kodak 2383. Let's decrease the exposure a little. Adjusting the tonal contrast really has made quite a bit of difference to not only the contrast but also the tone. Let's add a little blue to the midtones. And let's warm up the highlights a tad. This is what I really love about this app. You can easily fine tune to get those colours exactly how you want. Let's also add some film style grain to this photo. Let's add some more detail to the grain by increasing the resolution. I'm not sure if halation is going to make any difference, but let's give it a go anyway. I think it's given the image a slight highlight boost. Just by clicking that checkbox, the bloom has added some subtle highlights where there wasn't any. That really is awesome. This edit is complete. I didn't think this photo was going anywhere, but I really like the colour grading and the subtle changes that we've made here. If you like what you're seeing, the team at Dehancer has given you guys a 10% off discount. Just use the promotional code JoeRedsky at the checkout. This one's going to be really quick. This photo definitely has some light going on. That's why I wanted to use this as an example. This is just off Leicester Square in London. There is a movie theatre on the right and Chinatown is directly behind me. I think I was waiting for my friend when I shot this one. We usually go and see a horror movie whenever we meet up. This time let's use a preset and literally make a subtle change to the halation. Let's use the Fujichrome Velvia 50 plus 2383. Now I love that already, but let's just tone down the overall effect on that neon sign over there. Perfect. That's lovely. With just a couple of clicks, we've got this beautiful vintage vibe going on, and it's automatically implemented the toning, film grain, and the right amount of bloom. Just a heads up, if you like what you've seen here today and you haven't already, then please subscribe and give this video a like, because it helps me get my stuff out there to more people, and my main goal is to provide value to you guys. Finally, let me just show you just how powerful the halation and the bloom features are with this recent photo that I shot near my home. I always shoot with a quarter Pro Mist filter. There's nothing more rewarding than getting it right in camera, but hats off to Dehancer. This app takes the mist look to the next level. This time I'm going to be experimental and use a motion picture film type and the Fuji Vivid 500 profile. Let's whiz through right to the good stuff. This source limiter slider determines how bright a light must be to create halation. At 0, even dim lights will have halation. Increase it and only brighter lights will have that effect. Look how the halos have grown after adding the diffusion. Let's tone this down. We don't want it to look ridiculous with too much amplification. That's just about right. I don't think we need to make any major adjustments with the hue. Now let's just tweak the opacity with the impact slider. That looks atmospheric already. This is the best part. Clicking the bloom checkbox already creates a lovely glow coming from that shop doorway. That detail slider adjusts the bloom effect on different size light sources. You increase it for precise, detailed bloom around small lights, and and you decrease it for a more spread out effect. I'm going to give it maximum diffusion just so you can see what it does. But once again, let's narrow down that amplification and let's just mess with the opacity a bit with the impact slider. Final touch, it's a little too yellow. Boom, now that looks really atmospheric, doesn't it? Would I buy this program? Yes, I would. I love the film stock emulation in all of the profiles. The sliders each have their own unique function with a lot of nuance so you can achieve the look that you want to go for. I'm usually the kind of photographer who a lot of the time has no idea how I want the final image to look when I'm processing in Adobe Lightroom. However, Dehancer's tools help me envision exactly what vibe and tone I want from an image. But like with any post-processing software, less is more. You can go crazy with these sliders, but if you want to achieve a realistic yet atmospheric look, then do it subtly. The only criticism I have is that I wish there was a way to reorder the features on the right hand side, just like you could do in Adobe Lightroom. If, as the manual says, you're supposed to use expand and vignette before the other tools, then it would be nice to organise it from top to bottom. But this really is a minor criticism. I think it's a great app, and this is coming from a person who doesn't like to use different apps from the standard Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. My motto is less is more, but these features and the film profiles are so well worked out and implemented, I would definitely use this as part of my continual workflow. I'm taking a Christmas break next week, but I'll be around on the community tab if you want to catch up with me. I hope you have a lovely Christmas. Now watch this video here if you want to see how I shoot my street photography at Christmas time. Happy holidays.